As a farmer goes about his daily chore of shifting hay bales, an unexpected sight catches his eye. Amidst the sea of golden straw, a conspicuous white spot stands out. Upon closer inspection, he uncovers something extraordinary, a discovery that will forever alter the course of his life and transform the destiny of his humble barn. As dawn broke over Foscork, Sean O'Brien pushed open the weathered door of his barn. Sunlight streamed through the dusty air, illuminating motes that danced in its path. The familiar sense of hay and aged wood enveloped him as he approached the bales awaiting relocation. Reaching for the first bundle, Sean's hand froze mid-motion. An unusual white patch among the golden hay caught his eye, followed by a faint sound. He held his breath, listening. There it was again, a soft chirp, barely audible over the rustle of straw. Intrigued, Sean leaned closer, carefully parting the hay. His eyes widened as they met a pair of large round orbs staring back at him. Startled, Sean stumbled backward, his heart racing. But as the initial shock subsided, wonder took its place. Nestled in the hay were three tiny, fluffy shapes, baby barn owls, their downy feathers so pale they seemed to glow in the dim light. "Well, I'll be," Sean murmured, awestruck. In all his years farming this land, he'd never encountered anything quite like this. The elusive barn owl, subject of local legends, had chosen his humble barn as its nursery. As Sean marveled at this rare discovery, something else drew his attention. Scattered across the floor were small, dark objects. Cautiously, he investigated, careful not to disturb the owls. His weathered face, still etched with amazement, broke into a broad grin as he realized what he was seeing. Dozens of dead rats littering the barn floor. Weeks earlier, Sean had grappled with a severe rat infestation threatening his stored crops and equipment. Despite trying various traps and poisons, the problem persisted. In desperation, he'd turned to a fellow farmer who recommended a potent rat poison, guaranteeing its effectiveness. Now, surveying the scene before him, Sean felt a mix of relief and vindication. The rat problem appeared solved, though not quite as he'd expected. As he considered cleaning up the carcasses, a thought struck him. Perhaps these unexpected visitors, the owls, could benefit from this ready food source. In that moment, Sean realized the barn owl family might be the solution he never knew he needed, a natural and ongoing deterrent to future rat problems. This serendipitous discovery promised to change not only the fate of his barn, but also Sean's approach to farm management for years to come. As the initial excitement over his recent discoveries faded, Sean's mind was consumed by a dilemma. He needed to move hay bales to prepare for the upcoming season, but doing so risked disturbing a newly discovered owl nest. Sean had known every inch of his family's farm for generations, but this discovery forced him to see it in a new light. He recalled his grandfather's stories of barn owls being common in the area, a stark contrast to their rarity today. The significance of this nest suddenly dawned on him. Sean couldn't simply ignore the owls. He decided to postpone his barn work, giving the owl family time to settle in. As he left, he couldn't help but ponder the contrast between the new life in the nest and the potential for death in his daily tasks. That morning, Sean's wife, Mary, was surprised to see him home early. He couldn't hide his excitement as he shared the news of the owl family. Mary was thrilled and suggested creating a suitable habitat for them. Sean hesitated, torn between letting nature take its course and his wife's enthusiasm for raising an owl. Initially, Sean wanted to leave the owls alone, letting nature take its course. However, Mary's excitement and enthusiasm convinced him otherwise. He began to see the potential benefits of having barn owls on the farm, such as natural pest control and a boost to the local ecosystem. For weeks, Sean avoided disturbing the owls, relying on the dead rats for their food. Yet he felt a growing responsibility for their well-being. He researched owl diets, designed a permanent structure for them, and sought advice from friends, a pet shop owner, and a retired veterinarian. Sean's excitement and determination grew, but so did his sense of duty. He realized the owls were a rare and protected species that required proper care. He was determined to provide them with the best possible environment and resources. 1 week later, Sean's concern prompted him to check on the owls. He was greeted by a foul odor and a horrifying sight. The once pristine owls were now sickly gray. The dead rats remained untouched. Sean's mind raced, trying to understand what had happened. As he examined the owls more closely, he noticed a few other concerning signs. Their feathers were ruffled and dull, and their eyes were closed and listless. He knew something was seriously wrong. With a heavy heart, he realized that the owls were likely suffering from a disease or poisoning. Sean's initial fear and disappointment turned into a resolve to help the owls. He knew he couldn't just stand by and watch them suffer. He contacted a local wildlife rehabilitation center, explaining the situation and asking for advice. The center agreed to take in the owls and provide them with the necessary care. As Sean watched the wildlife rehabilitators gently handle the owls and transport them to their facility, he felt a mix of sadness and relief. He knew the owls were in good hands, and he hoped they would make a full recovery. Despite the setback, Sean remained committed to his goal of creating a safe and thriving habitat for barn owls on his farm. He continued to research owl care and explore options for a suitable structure. He also reached out to local conservation organizations to learn more about protecting these valuable creatures. Sean's experience with the owls taught him a valuable lesson about the importance of caring for wildlife. He realized that even the smallest actions can have a significant impact on the well-being of animals. He was determined to use his knowledge and resources to help ensure the survival of barn owls in his area. Sean was stunned when he realized the owls hadn't eaten. He was baffled and terrified, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew something was terribly wrong. A faint, weak sound from the barn snapped Sean out of his thoughts. He found the mother owl lying on the ground, lifeless. Fear gripped his heart as he realized the owls were in grave danger. Sean knew he needed help immediately. He called Birdwatch Ireland, a wildlife conservation organization. Donald Sheen, a representative, arrived promptly. As they inspected the barn, Sean explained the situation. He revealed that he had used rat poison and thought the owls could feed on the dead rodents. Donald's concern grew as he realized the potential connection. "So, you're saying that the owls might have ingested the rat poison?" Donald asked, his voice filled with concern. Sean nodded, his face pale. "I don't know for sure, but it's the only thing that makes sense. I kept the poison well out of reach, but maybe they found a way to get to it." Donald examined the barn carefully, looking for any signs of the rat poison. He found a small, empty container in a corner, confirming Sean's suspicions. "It's very likely that the owls ingested the poison," Donald said. "The symptoms you described, the lethargy, the weak breathing, they're all consistent with rat poisoning." Sean felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He had meant well, but his actions had had tragic consequences. He knew he had to do everything he could to help the remaining owls. Donald examined the surviving owls, assessing their condition. He found that they were all suffering from the effects of the poison, but the young owls were particularly vulnerable. "We need to get these owls to a wildlife rehabilitation center as soon as possible," Donald said. "They need immediate medical attention." Sean agreed, his heart heavy with sorrow. He knew that the owls faced a long road to recovery, but he hoped that with proper care, they would survive. As Donald prepared to transport the owls to the rehabilitation center, Sean couldn't help but feel a sense of deep regret. He had made a mistake, and it had cost the owls their lives. He vowed to learn from his experience and do everything in his power to prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. Donald's face was grave as he examined the sick owls. Sean watched anxiously, his heart pounding. "I don't understand what went wrong," he said, his voice trembling. Donald's words were a devastating blow. "The owls and their mother have been poisoned," he said. "The rat poison you left for them to eat is the culprit." Sean was filled with horror and guilt. He had meant to help, but his actions had had tragic consequences. "I was trying to help them," he stammered. Donald comforted him. "I know you were, but rat poison is extremely dangerous. When rats die from it, they still contain the poison in their bodies." Sean felt a wave of despair. "Is there anything we can do for them?" he asked. Donald examined the owls closely. "I'll try to administer an antidote," he said, "but there's no guarantee it will work." Sean watched as Donald carefully injected the owls with the antidote. His heart raced with hope and fear. Afterward, Donald's words were sobering. "The owls may or may not recover," he said. "We've done all we can." Sean nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "If they don't make it?" he asked. Donald's eyes were filled with compassion. "We'll give them a respectful burial." As they stood in the quiet barn, surrounded by the owls' weak hoots, Sean felt a profound shift within himself. He had learned a harsh lesson about the delicate balance of nature and the importance of understanding the consequences of one's actions. "I never meant for this to happen," Sean said, his voice filled with emotion. "I thought I was doing the right thing." Donald nodded understandingly. "Nature is complex. Sometimes our best intentions can have unintended consequences." He paused, then added, "But what matters now is that we're trying to make it right." Donald saw an opportunity in Sean's remorse and eagerness. He decided to use this as a chance to educate Sean about owl care. "Let's spend the day learning about proper owl care," he suggested. Sean was enthusiastic. "I want to do right by these creatures," he said. For the rest of the day, the barn became a classroom. Donald shared his knowledge, and Sean was an attentive student. They covered owl diets, habitats, and the importance of a poison-free environment. As the sun set, Sean felt exhausted but exhilarated. He had learned a lot and gained a newfound respect for nature. Over the following week, Sean visited the barn daily, his heart filled with hope and concern. The owls were slowly improving. Their feathers were regaining their luster, and their eyes were becoming more alert. Sean found himself talking to the owls, encouraging them. Mary noticed the change in her husband. He was happier, and his step was lighter. She knew the ordeal had changed him. Sean decided to put his newfound knowledge to the test. He carefully planned and created a proper home for the owls in a quiet corner of the barn. He built a sturdy structure with separate areas for nesting and roosting. He even included a hunting perch. Sean's journey didn't end with the owls' recovery. Filled with a renewed sense of purpose, he built 2 more owl houses on his farm. He envisioned a future where more owls would call his land home. As he completed the final house, Sean stepped back to admire his work. Pride and humility washed over him. He had come so close to destroying something beautiful through ignorance, but now he had a chance to make amends. Sean's transformation from accidental harm to passionate wildlife steward is a powerful reminder of nature's delicate balance. Have you ever had an unexpected encounter with wildlife that changed your perspective? How did you coexist harmoniously with the creatures around your home or farm? Share your experiences and thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.